Thanks, everyone. I'll get you to take your seats if you don't mind. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name's Mayor Patrick Hall. This evening is the, Tuesday, 13th of August 2024. I welcome you to the City's agenda briefing session for tonight. I would like to open, of course, by declaring the meeting open at 6 o'clock and acknowledging the Whadjuk people, the traditional custodians of the land. We also pay our respects to elders both past and present. In accordance with City Accounting Policy CM 105, agenda briefings are conducted to provide elected members with a forum to ask questions of the City's administration, and that's to enable informed decision-making by Council at the following week's ordinary Council meeting. Agenda briefings are not decision-making forums. Questions may be asked and answered, but no debate or discussion is permitted. Questions must specifically relate to an item on tonight's agenda. Elected members and employees must disclose any financial, proximity or partiality interest that they may have in an item on the agenda and declare the interest at the commencement of the briefing or at the very latest when the item is about to be discussed. Financial, proximity and impartiality interests are to be disclosed in accordance with the provisions of the Local Government Act as they apply to council meetings. And elected members disclosing a financial or proximity interest may not participate in that part of the briefing relating to their interest, and they must leave the meeting for the duration of the item. Agendas public meetings, of course, and this briefing is being live streamed to the public via the City's YouTube channel. And lastly, please ensure that all mobile phones are off, or at the very least switch to silent for the duration of the meeting. Councillor Chair, can I get you to address Council and those assembled at home to give an understanding of why every councillor and every member of staff around the room here tonight are dressed in blue jeans?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We have a total of 16 in jeans tonight, which is fantastic. And as you know, we're supporting Genes for Genes. So the funds goes towards researching for genetic diseases and birth defects, which is a great foundation.
Fantastic.
So thank you.
I can't wait to see the update on Facebook. And thanks very much to all the councillors and the staff assembled here tonight for participating in what is a really meaningful fundraising event. Thanks very much for that. And also, more importantly, raising awareness for that charity. Item 2 on tonight's agenda is attendance. We do have a number of apologies. Councillor Kunza is an apology for tonight's meeting and just a late apology from Councillor Hearn. She's unable to join us this evening. At item 2.2, approved leave of absence, Councillor Parkinson has an approved leave of absence through to the 14th of October this year. Disclosures of interest. CEO Michael Littleton at item 3. Are there any disclosures from elected members this evening?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've received no declarations of interest for tonight's briefing.
Thank you. At item 4, question time for the public. At item 4.1, responses to previous questions taken on notice. There are none. Do we have any questions from anyone in the public gallery? No, there are none. That being the case, I will not open or close the public question time at item 4.2. We shall progress to item 4.3, deputations. There are none this evening. At items brought forward for the convenience of those in the public gallery, similarly, there are none. Reports of committee meetings, there are none. As far as reports go, the first report is from the Office of the CEO. The responsible officer, obviously, Mr Michael Littleton, the CEO. The first report being OC 007 of 24. And that's the Western Australian Local Government Association 2024 Annual General Meeting. City Accounting voting delegates. The officer recommendation is on screen. Councillors, if there are any questions, I'm happy to entertain them. I would just ask if councillors would like to nominate themselves as a voting delegate for the convention, which is coming up on the 9th of October. Please email the CEO or the government's team and put your name down. And also, please, if anyone's interested in attending the conference, please put your hand up. It's a really important local government initiative. It's a wonderful opportunity to learn about what is happening in the sector and to network with like-minded members of local government. And I really encourage elected members, if they have the time to spare, to come along and attend the local government annual general meeting and conference over that period. Thanks, councillors. Any questions on that item before we move on? Deputy Mayor.
Just wanted to know, are we, excuse me, are we nominated for any awards at this year's WALGA conference?
CEO, are we under the spotlight again?
No, I don't believe that we've nominated for any awards for this WALGA conference.
WALGA just held its big awards night last week. I attended there. We hadn't been nominated for any awards, and probably in hindsight it's something we should look at, not from the point of showing off, but it's good to highlight the work that we are doing. So we'll have a chat about that. But I think we could possibly put our hand up for something, CEO. We're doing fine work here at Canning, aren't we? Absolutely. Thank you, CEO. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillors, we'll move on to the following item, and that is item 7.2, the responsible officer being... Oh, Shen Sekon. Hello, Councillor Sekon. What was your question?
Hi, Mayor Hall. I just want to confirm that the meeting is held on the same day as the convention. Is that right?
It is. It's held as part of the convention.
So if the person that's been chosen as the voting delegate, do they get to attend the convention as well, or...
Any of you can attend the convention if
Okay.
you want to. We can certainly have governance, or governance, are you able to send out details of the conference to councillors? Can we resend that to council, please, just so everybody can have a look at what the conference is all about and the dates, and see whether or not they might be able to be available. And then, of course, as I said, please let the CEO or governance know if you'd like to nominate yourself as a voting delegate. Before next week, so in the next couple of days, please, if you can. The next report on the is item 7.2, the responsible officer being Mr. Lorraine Driscoll. Councillor Page, let's back up the truck again. Yes.
I just want to ask, with the proxy voting delegates, is there a way to attend this meeting remotely, or do you have to be there in person?
You would have to be there in person. I don't think they have the facility to, because of the size of the convention and the number of elected members is more than 1,000. So I don't think that would be possible. I haven't explored it, but I wouldn't think, from my experience of attending these, that would be possible. But governance will certainly advise on that. Thank you, Karen. Deputy Mayor?
Sorry, I thought seeing as you're doing such a great job, you might also want to remind elected members that they can actually create and move motions at the conference AGM themselves if they want WALGA to concentrate on anything. It's nice to know in advance rather than trying to make it up on the fly.
Yeah, having said that though, the process should be that you actually go through your southeast zone. So we have a zone, WALGA has a zone. Councillors really shouldn't be, as best practice, just coming up with a thought bubble and bringing it to the WALGA convention. The process is they should actually be presented first to the zone then votes on them, then they go to the WALGA convention. That would...
This would be such a topical...
No, nor did I, CEO. I share your concern. But it's nice to have a few questions about it. But again, I encourage you to consider coming along. Item 7.2, no more hands in the air. Thank you very much. Ms. Lorraine Driscoll, the Director of Corporate and Commercial, is the responsible officer. It's CC 013 of 24. That first item, the title of which is the renewal of the lease for Weight Watchers Federation of WA at 40 Edgeware Street in Lynwood. The officer's recommendation is on screen. It also appears on page 11 of tonight's agenda. Are there any questions in relation to that item? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
In the officer's report, it states that the Maylands branch closed down, and I assume a lot of those members moved over to the Canning one. Is that correct?
Ms. Driscoll, is that something that we know?
Ms.
Oh,
Driscoll's
sorry,
not here
she's not
tonight.
That's
very quiet.
That's how switched on I am. Mustafa, thank
Deep in
you.
concentration, Mayor. We can definitely check that for you, Deputy Mayor.
Great, thank you. And also, I also note that it says that we are currently looking for an alternative space for this group. I also note that there's only going to be 2 years left on this lease because they've been in a 1 year holding over period. Are we confident that we'll be able to find them somewhere else in that period?
Mr. Udis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand the team is working with them, but I don't have an update on where that exploration or the investigation is currently at. I can definitely get that information for you, though.
And one more question, just with the last year's outgoings, does that mean that we haven't charged them yet, so they'll get 2 years worth, or had we already charged them while they're in that year's handover period for 23-24?
Thank you, through the Mayor. I'll be able to check that for you too.
I'll take those questions on notice and certainly get an answer to you. Thank you, Mr. Udis. Any other questions on that item before we move on? Thank you, councillors. We move to CC 015 of 24, and that's the budget review for the period as at 31st of July 2024 to adopt projects carried forward from 2023 and 2024. The officer's recommendation is on screen. Thank you, governance. It also appears on page 18 of tonight's agenda. We did have a briefing on this a short time ago, but nevertheless, are there any further questions from council? Yes, Councillor Bain.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are a number of TPS 23 funded projects that were not completed last year. I couldn't find them in the attached carry forward schedule. I just want to confirm that they're still being completed. Thank you.
Are you able to get an answer for us on that one? Have we got anybody, a director, that can provide an update?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The TPS funding wasn't indicated in the carry forward schedule. However, we will probably take that one on notice, Councillor Bain, and come back to you.
We'll come back to you with an answer, Councillor Bain. Thank you very much. Any further questions? Yes, Councillor Bain.
Just one more, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Ferndale Park sports facility is intended to carry over $128,000. So that, in addition to the 1.5 that's been committed to for this financial year, what is the city anticipating to complete in the next financial year regarding that project?
CEO.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Bain. The way that we've cash flowed the Ferndale project, it is being delivered across 3 financial years. So this year, next year, and the year after, it's as you know, it's a $6 million projected project. We would anticipate being into the market from a contract viewpoint at the end of this financial year, with a view to commencement through the financial year afterwards. So that's the way that we would propose to deliver Ferndale. Obviously, we need to work with the clubs to look at the timing to minimise disruption to season. Appreciate it's a fairly substantial build, so there will be some some management of in-season works, but that's our current schedule. Look, just in relation to your TPS projects, those projects are continuing forward. So they were adopted last year. They have been carried forward into the budget, and they will be continued to be delivered. We'll certainly confirm that in our response.
Thank you. Councillor Page, did you have a question? No? Any further questions on that item? Thank you. We shall move then on to CC 016 of 24, and that's the monthly financial report for June 2024. The recommendation is on page 36 of tonight's agenda. It also appears on screen. Councillors, any questions in relation to the monthly financial report? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Just 2 very brief ones. When are the rates notices going out?
CEO, when are the rate notices going out?
The rate notice is going out at the end of this month. So we're currently scheduled to get to zip form our data files Wednesday next week with a 31 August delivery date.
Thank you. And just finally, on page 51, we've got the Lynwood United Football Club room at Hossack Park renewal. That is also the pavilion area that we hire out as well, isn't it? That's that little space in between the change rooms and the canteen.
CEO, do you know whether that's the case?
Maybe
Mr. McKinnon, are you able to shed any light on that inquiry? Did you hear the question?
Deputy Mayor Spencer-Tier, could you just repeat the question for me again?
Yeah, just on page 51, we've got the Lynwood United Football Club room at Hossack Park. I'm just confirming that that's that small space in between the change rooms and the canteen that's often hired out as a casual booking for other user groups.
Councillor, through the Mayor, Deputy Mayor Spencer-Tier, that's the $250,000 grant for the Lynwood United Football Club construction of facilities that can also be utilised by other clubs.
Sorry, $250,000 grant. Did we get a grant for that?
Mr McKinnon?
That's correct, Deputy Mayor Spencer-Teo.
Thanks. And is that work, is that renewal focused on the club or more the casual hire users? Because I note that the club really only just has like one little cabinet that they have a few memorabilia in, and that's pretty much it.
Deputy Mayor Spencer-Teo, the renovations are mainly for the club, but there are spaces available for other use.
Okay, thank you.
CEO, did you want to add something to that?
The genesis of the project was it was actually an a fund that the club themselves actually generated. Their intent was to actually build a separate club room, which, given our focus on trying to create club spaces in these facilities, we believe that it was more appropriate to invest that money in that bookable space to create that club focus for Hossack Park. So yes, there will be capacity to casual hire, but principally it's about fitting that space out to service the reserve, which is consistent with what we're trying to do at Prenwick, and that's our focus going forward.
Deputy Mayor, happy with it? Thank you. Thank you, Mr McKinnon. Yes, Councillor Singh.
Can I ask a question regarding rates notice, Mr. Mayor?
The rates notice. Yeah, we can go back and ask a question about that, of course.
Thank you. To the CEO, previously people who registered for E-rates, they missed out, or the email about E-rates did not reach people, and there was a problem in the system. This year, are we doing something or taking any measures to make sure that it reaches people? And what if someone misses it? What are we doing to make sure that people receive E-rates?
How are we checking that they're actually received? Thank you, CEO.
Yeah, thanks. And I appreciate the questions about rates, not something on the current agenda, but we are certainly aware that our E-rates registration had some difficulties last year. We are doing all we can to make sure that those issues are addressed and actioned this year. Just to be clear, the reason why we have a delay in our rates issue this year compared to last year is we've actually transitioned to a new platform, which is Tech One. So to enable that data migration to happen effectively from the old system to the new is why that we actually sought a little bit of a delay in the issuing of rates this year compared to last. Our hope is, or our expectation is, that we will be back onto a normal cycle for rates issuing next year. But to answer you, so I thought that was important background for council, which is why we're a little later than we usually are. Absolutely, we are looking to address the E-rates system and make sure that we learn the lessons of the past. Will we get it absolutely right, given all of the work that we're doing around a new system? Absolutely.
That's a resounding yes, Councillor Singh. You heard it here from the CEO himself. Thank you, councillors. Any further questions on the monthly financial report before we move on? Thank you. In the absence of further questioning, we'll move to CC 017 of 24. The title of that report is the Proposed Lease Renewal for the Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of Canning Incorporated at Lot 110, which happens to be number 20, Aldam Crescent in Shelley. The recommendation is on screen. It also appears on page 78 of tonight's agenda. Any questions, Councillor Deputy Mayor? Thank you, Hitesh. Deputy Mayor, yes.
Thank you. I've just got one quick question. It says in the report that if they were offered a 10-year lease, they would invest $50,000, but we're offering them a 5-year lease. Would they still be investing in the building under this proposed lease?
Mr. Yudis, why did we step away from that commitment of the $50,000 and offer them a 5-year lease? What happened there?
Thank you, Mayor. I most probably have to take that on notice, but I understand that there are ongoing discussions about that. I may defer to my colleague, Ms. Hayward. She may not know. She's shaking her head. No, we'll definitely take that on notice for you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you.
CEO?
I would only say the lease is a 5+5, so effectively it is a 10-year lease. So you would see the term of the lease is 5 years with a 1 5-year option. So I would suggest to you,
technically,
the guys will confirm, but that satisfies the provision of $50,000 investment.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further questions about the Baha'i Centre in Shelley? Thank you. The next item tonight, we'll skip 7.3 and move to 7.4. Mr. Nick Stewart to my right, the Acting Director of Infrastructure and Environment. It's IE 006, outcome of community consultation of the dog exercise trials at Judy Pannell Park and Fern Place in Wilson. The matter was discussed recently by Council at a strategic briefing. It appears tonight on screen and also on page 87 of tonight's agendas. Any further questions in relation to that item, councillors? Councillor Shen, second, yes.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. I just want to confirm that with this determination, is there a sign that's been put in the park to inform residents that it is now moving forward, it's going to be a dog on leash?
Only if that decision is reached by council next Tuesday. Okay. Yeah, so it'll be those sorts of notifications will occur after the meeting. We always try not to preempt a decision of council. So the meeting is next Tuesday. Once that decision has been taken, whichever way, if council resolves to support that recommendation, then all of those things will take place, I'm sure. Mr. Stewart, is that the case? Will there be signage? I think we discussed that to advise people and alert them to what's going on. I think we're writing to surrounding landholders and...
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Mayor, that'll be the case if the council decision is supported next week.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Shen. Second, Councillor Mark Bain.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of questions, if I may. Did the city advertise the proposed changes on Facebook, and were any comments received?
Mr. Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Bain. I might actually defer that question to our Manager for Parks and Environment, Giles Pickard, or Mr. Glenn Williams.
Mr. Williams?
Yes, to Mr. Williams.
Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. Yes, the city did advertise the survey, which was on the city's digital engagement platform, Your Say, and that was done through a boosted post through the city's social media platforms just before Christmas.
So we did put it on Facebook, and we actually paid to boost that post and advertised it, so I promoted it on social media. Yep. Thank you. Next question.
And the bench seat that is installed parallel to Fern Road and sits opposite the Canning River Regional Park. I just wanted to get the city's advice if that was the optimum use of that bench asset, considering that it will be potentially a dog park, dog exercise area in the future.
Are you suggesting that that's a peculiar place to put a bench facing the road?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Mr. Williams, do you know the bench that Councillor Bain is actually referring to, the bench that sits just on the edge of the road staring at the road? Do you know of that bench?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I travel that road pretty frequently. I can't say I'm familiar with the bench, but we'll certainly look into that. And if there's an identified need to install a bench in a more appropriate location or direction, we can certainly look to change that.
Okay, you know the park he's referring to, of the two?
It's on Fern Place Park? Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Bain, any further questions? Thank you, councillors. If there are no further questions, we'll move on to the next item, which is the panel of pre-qualified suppliers for survey services, and that is IE 014 of 24. The officer's recommendation appears on page 98 of tonight's agenda and is also on screen. Any questions in relation to that item? None. Thank you, councillors. We shall move then to IE 016 of 24. The title of that report being the Delivery of Low-Cost Urban Road Safety Project, Carousel Residential Precinct. The officer's recommendation is on page 106 and also appears on screen. Any questions? Councillor Bain, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The asbestos cement pipeline that's located at the intersection of Grey and Crawford, are we anticipating any problems with that, keeping in mind Corbell and Medillion, and is that going to take up significant funds to change?
Mr. McKinnon, I think, through you, Mr. Stewart. Mr. McKinnon?
Through the Mayor to Councillor Bain, no, the elevated platform that we're going to use at the intersection won't interfere with the current existing water infrastructure, so there won't be a cost impost in that regard, nor a time delay.
Thank you. Councillor Bain?
Just a couple more. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is the city confident that it can complete all the works for the Carousel Precinct before the deadline of 30 June 2025?
Mr McKinnon?
Through the Mayor, Councillor Bain, we are confident that we'll complete all the works as required within the timelines required.
Thank you. Councillor Bain?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. And should there be any remaining funds, would it be possible to look at the condition of the roundabout and Blister Island on Station Street? They're in not the optimum state at the moment. They're quite, they've been hit by many cars, and we've patched it up with a bit of bitumen as well.
Is that on the drawing board, Mr McKinnon?
Through the Mayor, Councillor Bain, the funds are 100% supplied by Main Roads, and it's in with the approval of Main Roads to their area design. We would have to apply to Main Roads for the use of those funds on another treatment that's not within their plan, but we can do that. Otherwise, the excess funds have to be returned.
CEO, did you want to make a comment?
Well, I need to say, look, we're happy to look at that particular issue, and if it's something that we can deal with in our maintenance budgets, we'll have a look at that, Councillor Bain. But that doesn't spring to my mind. I'm just looking at Mr Jansen's down there, as well as Mr McKinnon's probably not springing to their mind yet, but we're happy to have a look at it.
Thank you. Councillor Bain?
I only mentioned it because it's within that Carousel neighbourhood precinct that MRWA has put forward the funding for. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Page?
Through you, Mr Mayor, just want to check that the offerer's recommendation is talking specifically about that raised intersection platform. This approval is also going to be for those other proposed treatments outlined in page 112, true, correct?
Mr Stewart?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll defer that question again to our manager, Ashley McKinnon.
Mr McKinnon?
Through the Mayor, to Councillor Page, the approval is essentially for the provision of the elevated treatment at the intersection, which supersedes a prior notice of motion by Councillor Jacobs at the time, but the approval for the rest of the works is usually not required. It's an operational matter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Any further questions on that item? Thank you, councillors. We move to item 7.5. There are no reports from that directorate. At item 8, notices of motion, there are none. Item 9, urgent business, there is none to be dealt with this evening. At confidential matters at item 10, there are no confidential matters for council to consider. And at item 11, closure. Thanks, councillors, for attending tonight. Thank you to staff for staying back. There being no further business, I now declare the agenda briefing closed, the time being 6:28 p.m. Thanks very much for your attendance.